It's a superhero media trend these days to do a "what if we had a Superman, but he was evil" story. And to be honest, it's really old at this point. We have Invincible, we had Injustice, we had Superman Red Son, we had Zack Snyder, who was trying to do something like that in the DCEU. I think Jupiter's Legacy was also about that, but where did this trend really start from? The answer is Injustice, but it caught the attention of many more people and became a trend with none other than The Boys. This is going to be the talk of the fourth season. I couldn't talk about the previous seasons because I hadn't had the idea to do this kind of thing at the time I watched them, and season 3, which I watched 2 years ago, was in a format that I couldn't make videos about since, my source for these shows is totally legal websites. Anyway, the talk will go like this. I will talk about the characters first, describing them and probably giving you insight into them. And then I will talk about my thoughts on the season as a whole. First up, we have Billy Butcher. He's played by the very likable Karl Urban, who just yesterday I was reminded that he appeared in Thor Ragnarok as a main cast member, playing Scourge the Executioner. I completely forgot about that. I only watched that movie once and I hated it. I will never watch it again. Billy is the troubled, rage-filled, vengeful, hateful, bitter, spiteful, sarcastic, somewhat relatable leader of the boys. Or at least he used to be until he was replaced by Mother's Milk due to his hypocrisy and willingness to break all the rules to get things done. Funny how he's part of a Black Ops team and was let go for being a guy who does shady things. Anyway, he's on a quest for revenge against Homelander for taking his wife on a trip that she didn't want to go on. It's been his goal ever since to get rid of him, figuratively and literally, and in the last season he tried taking Compound V, which gives humans superpowers. Now he has some sort of cancer developing because of that. In the last season, I could see that he was turning to the dark side because he's kind of a sicko himself, but this season switched gears and made him more sympathetic in that regard. Then comes Huey. They call him Wee Huey in the comics. He's Butcher's conscience. Well, at least he started out that way. Primarily, we were seeing the world unfold through his point of view, but eventually it just became a generic thing where we all know what the heck is going on and can just be as surprised as everyone else. He's a guy who is always trying to do the right thing, is always politically correct, and just stays in line no matter what happens. At least most of the time. Despite everything he has gone through, he still doesn't know how to handle himself in a fight, and this lands him in a lot of trouble this season. He is also back to dating Starlight. Yay, Huey! Then there's Mother's Milk. You seriously don't want to know where he gets that name from in the source material. I mean it. He has the same hair color as me. He is also the one who knows Butcher best, and for the longest time out of anyone in The Boys. He is a responsible guy, stern, and has the bad luck of getting caught up in the most disgusting things that the boys get exposed to. He is a source of comic relief simply because he's the most stern and serious, but always gets embarrassed or in embarrassing situations. Poor guy. He has a wife and daughter, and hates Soups because Soldier Boy killed his father when he was a child. He calls it racism, but when I saw the flashback to that moment, it just looked like Soldier Boy hurled a car without really taking into account what could happen, and it killed a guy with the same hair color as me. But then again, that was last season. We're talking about season 4 here. Frenchie. Yes, he's a French guy. With the French accent and the French mannerisms in his speech, and of course his fascination with weird things. This season, he is revealed to like the same flavored ice cream that he has. This is a really interesting development. I don't know if this is accurate to the source material, but then again, they took a lot of liberties with the source material in a lot of ways. He has a special bond with the mute Soups, Kimiko, whom Butcher insisted on having killed because of his hate for Soups. Frenchie always has to pull them apart before they tear each other apart. He actually doesn't really have that much of a problem with Soups. He is aware of the problems the bad ones present, but he doesn't have anything personal going on with them. Then Kimiko. She is Frenchie's companion. They're always together everywhere they go. She is mute and has the power to heal from injuries. Everything else she does is a learned skill, like her fighting, and I don't know if she has fast reflexes or not because she gets beaten up a lot. Every season has her suffering more and more outrageous injuries, and every single time I go like, yeah, she's not getting up from that one. But no, she always gets back up. She's kind, compassionate, and is trying to escape her past, where she worked as a member of a terrorist cell. Next up, Starlight. She was the hopeful, optimistic, upcoming hot new talent to join the Seven. Yeah, that all turned upside down and became bitter cynicism. She became cold and straightforward in her approach, and even when she is doing good, it feels like there is a gray area in her actions. She lost her faith in the system and prefers to operate with the boys full time. She has the power to control illumination. At least I think that that's what it is. I think every soup has some degree of durability and strength too. She's back to dating Huey after they went through a rough, very rough patch in the previous season. I'm glad to see that they worked things out. Also, she is revealed to have done some really dark stuff as a kid. She wasn't as perfect as we thought she was. Victoria Newman, the undercover soup who has the ability to pop people's heads, like they say. I don't actually have much to say about her because I don't know her all that well. All I know is that she likes to pop people's heads when they anger her, making her among the most dangerous soups in the show. She also has a daughter with a monstrous mouth that is just about the freakiest thing you could imagine. Really disgusting. Then we have A-Train. He's a guy that struggles with inadequacy and ineptness. He wants to be known as the fastest man alive, but was dependent on the equivalent of drugs to boost his speed since he wasn't taking care of himself as he should be. He also went on some quest to look into his African roots and talk about racial injustices. Okay, I definitely know that this was not something they talked about in the source material. But anyway, we take what we can get, right? He's starting to work with the boys slowly throughout the show, helping them out with small favors that are increasingly becoming risky. I have a feeling he's not going to make it to the end of the show. By the way, he has the same hair color as me. The Deep. The Deep. He's this universe's version of Aquaman. He's a guy who has a lot of insecurity. He is unsure of himself, a bootlicker, and just easily dominated by pretty much everyone who has something that even resembles a strong personality. The only person who treats him with respect is his girlfriend, the octopus. I forgot her name, but geez, dude, it doesn't get any weirder than that with this guy. He loves fish life, and I mean genuine romantic love. Seriously, this guy is really creepy. He's also a sexual predator, or at least he was before he reformed. The last person he ever tried that with was Starlight. He's still on his arc about not being a bootlicker and learning to stand up for himself, but it's still not going anywhere. It looks like he's just going further down into the rabbit hole. Then Firecracker. She's a redhead. My kind of woman. Oh, and that accent she has. Unbelievable. She got me roped in tighter than a runaway horse. Seriously, I have no idea where they found this actress, but I'm glad they did, and she did such a good job with her role. She seems to have the same power set as Starlight, but to a lesser degree. Her real asset is her way with words and with people. She has a way with those. Who can blame her? She is easy on the eyes after all. Man, she's so good. She's feisty, raw, and traumatized from what Starlight did to her as a child. That's right, regarding her rivalry with Starlight, Starlight is actually kind of the bad guy here. Go figure! Second last comes Sister Sage. She is the smartest person on earth. She has the same hair color as I do. I don't know why she was even given a super suit since she's just a smart person. Her powers do not help in combat at all, and she doesn't belong out in the field at all. She's got apathy, the apathy of a really intelligent person, and only sees the world in the most practical way there is. There's no space for sentimentality, only the completion of the tasks she has been given or she wants to complete. That is, unless she performs lobotomy on herself in order to change her personality temporarily. Yeah, it's weird. Her brain regenerates, and she found that lobotomizing herself can turn her into a normal person for a bit before the brain restores itself and she can enjoy the company of other human beings. This is the trick the Deep uses in order to um, bake some cream pie with her. The Deep is a really weird guy. All the characters in this show are weird. Speaking of weird, we finally get to Homelander. He's basically the Superman anagram of the show. This guy is a guy who's extremely complex and somehow controversial. He likes fame, attention, being the poster boy, doesn't care about human lives, doesn't necessarily enjoy inflicting pain on others, but knows how to use his ability to do so to his advantage. Seriously, if he says that he'll do something painful to you, best believe that he will actually do it, no matter what it is. The best thing to do is fall in line. He is also very unpredictable and grows increasingly unstable throughout the show. This season sees his instability kind of halt and the instability of Butcher increasing. I think, given the way the comic ends, with its big plot twist and all, and the next season being the last, the writers of the show back themselves into a corner when it comes to writing Homelander. I also got this vague impression that the writers were trying to make some sort of political statement with him. In the previous seasons, I saw them making fun of the superhero genre and showing us how corporations don't actually care about being progressive. They just have to show people that they care in order to keep making money. But this season felt more like political propaganda for some reason, and that was most apparent with Homelander. I don't know why, I just got that feeling. We got to know more about his childhood, and honestly, I don't even blame him for the issues that he has. It is all Vought's fault. Does he even have a name other than Homelander? Anyway, he has the power of flight, super strength, and super speed. Well, he can fly at super speed. I don't know if he can run fast too. He also has laser vision. He's also trying to raise his son. It's actually a big part of his arc in this season. He's trying to be a good dad. He's failing at it, but he's genuinely trying to be a good dad. That was it for the characters. Let's move on to the show. The season started off pretty average compared to the previous seasons, and if I am to be honest, this season was the weakest of them all. Something about the quality just went down. The writing doesn't seem to be smart anymore. There isn't that shock factor the show is known for, because let's face it, we enjoy the shock factor more than almost everything in this show. The other thing that we enjoy a lot in this show is the complexity of the characters. Nobody is pure good or pure evil. The characters are all written in realistic shades of gray. No matter how you want to spin it, no one is pure good and exemplary, no matter how much they try to be. Butcher is a psychopath with an extremely dark side that for some reason the show doesn't want to delve into too much, but only hints at it, like PG adaptations of super dark stories and extremely violent characters in a certain franchise that we are all familiar with. Mother's Milk's entire motivation is a victim mentality thing where he claims that his father died as a result of racism, showing that he views the world very differently from others and not in a good way. Frenchie is a former drug addict who is fascinated by so much weird stuff that goes on in the world. That's not very exemplary. Huey started taking Compound V because he was starting to feel inferior and didn't want to keep being saved by his girlfriend. Not very exemplary. Starlight, well, Firecracker told us what Starlight did to her. Even on the bad guy side, we have Homelander, who just wants to prove that he doesn't need to be on a leash, a mentality that was cultivated by the way people around him treated him. They kept treating him like he needed to be on a leash the whole time, and he was like, nah, I need to do my own thing, my own way. He has mommy issues and daddy issues, and was shown in this season that he was treated inhumanely by the people that were uh, raising him. So you can see that he's just a man child trying to prove himself, but doesn't have the same means that every other normal person would have due to being sheltered his whole life. The problem with this season is that the complexity was thrown out the window. The complexity that remains is built up from previous seasons. Now it looks like they're just trying to go in a different direction. It's not gray anymore, it's becoming black and white. Butcher in the last season showed us that he was becoming unstable and was going down a dark path. Okay, he was always unstable, but the dark path thing was the novelty. Suddenly he's not anymore, and it's just a side effect of Compound V, which kind of developed a second personality for him, which shifts all the blame to that. I don't think that's how the source material went, but okay. I've never read the comics, but I know enough about what happens there to call into question a few or a lot of the decisions made in the show. Sure, the show is an adaptation of the comics, but I feel like you shouldn't deviate from the major things in the comics. And they've already done that with Black Noir, Homelander thing in the previous season. That twist was going to be so awesome and would have been great in teaching a life lesson for the people in the real world. Like how in Obi-Wan Kenobi, Vader killing Reva would have been a life lesson about how pursuing revenge and living with hate isn't a good thing, or showcasing that as soon as Reva spared Luke and redeemed herself from the dark side, she died from her injuries because her anger is what sustained her. But then again, I'm not a professional writer. I'm just a writer who's not good enough to sell anything and resorted to making YouTube videos talking about how I would have told some stories in certain movies or shows. The story was good and moved forward. I still don't get how Frenchie likes the same flavored ice cream as he has. But then again, we take what we can get. I remember in the last season I was watching the musical scene with him and Kimiko, and I was like, it's nice to see a platonic relationship between a man and woman in a show that doesn't turn into romance, because they don't have that kind of chemistry. And then they made out right after. Seriously, that's how it went. So from that to seeing Frenchie in a relationship with a dude, it was bizarre. Then in the end he gets with Kimiko. I really want to ask, does he get into a relationship with a guy in the comic? The other thing about this season is the political undertones. I'm not an expert in politics and I don't like to talk about them in general, not even regarding my own country's politics. But I understood that the writers were delving into that a little too much and they made their stance very clear. Look, talking about politics is fine in the show, in any show in fact. Talking about religion is also fine. But if you want to talk about something divisive like that, you should try to show both sides' pros and cons. And I think the writers of the season forgot that rule. It looked like all the pros that came from one side were unintentional on the writer's side. That the fans ended up interpreting things in a way that they didn't want them to. I read about Eric Kripke not understanding why people like Homelander, and I'm like, you're not supposed to be saying things like that. Your job is to write the character and tell the story. You're not supposed to purposely make us hate a character and then find it weird when we don't. We, the audience, make up our own mind about these things. You just keep giving us content and we give you feedback. That's it. What you worry about is whether the audience likes what you're presenting or not. Not whether the character you hate is being hated. It's so weird that that's what it's come down to. I never understood why there was so much hype about Jeffrey Dean Morgan being cast in the show. I thought it was something about how cool his character is, but nope. The hype just comes from it being Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I was also let down by Tech Knight. Again. Everyone was so hyped about him finally being in the show, and up to now I'm like, what was so special about him? He died, by the way, and in such an anticlimactic way, considering how hyped up he was. Seriously, what is up with that? It reminds me of when they hyped up the fight in Deadpool and Wolverine between the latter and Sabretooth, played by Tyler Mane, the first actor to have the role 24 years ago. Or was it 25? And then the fight doesn't even last 10 seconds. What was the point of hyping it up? Was it supposed to be funny? I didn't find it funny when I heard about it. Oh, yeah, I didn't watch the movie. I'm tired of Wolverine. He was never my favorite character in any movie, and this whole thing of shoving only him in our faces has gotten me so saturated with him that I don't want to watch a project where he's the main character ever again. That's why I didn't watch Deadpool and Wolverine, and why I won't be watching MCU's X-Men movies, since they're keeping Hugh and can't relegate him to a supporting character. Yeah, the fans have too much power over studio decisions these days. Anyway, despite all the weird things in the season that I just mentioned, it was still well made. The special effects are good, the acting is good, the way things unfold is good. There's no complaint from a technical point of view. No complaint at all. I just had to point out, because I just remembered, whenever I'd see Ashley, I'd think about Leslie Headland, the creator of The Acolyte. I don't know why. Maybe the name somehow. Maybe it's because they resemble each other in a way. I noticed that the Deep is also kind of a jerk when he has power, so it's nice that he's not given any agency. I mean, he got rid of his octopus girlfriend even though she was the only one who ever treated him with respect and preserved his dignity. Also, he could do the things with a girl that was always lobotomizing herself just to be nice to him. And they can't even have a proper relationship like the one he had with the octopus. That's The Boys for you. My favorite character was Firecracker because she was, well, I like her accent, and I kind of respected her rise to prominence. She was screwed over as a child and carried that anger with her, rose through the ranks, and is now super influential. I really respect that, I really do. My favorite episode was the one with the soup cows. That was some weird stuff, yo, but that's why we love The Boys. The shock factor. Unfortunately, it didn't hit the mark as hard this time around. Well, we take what we can get. Perhaps toning things down is all part of the grand design. After all, if the show kept getting crazier forever, it would turn into a farce. Just ask the Fast and Furious franchise. It'd be like poetry. It'd rhyme. Overall, the season was alright. Nothing too impressive, and it's actually making me doubt the quality of the next one, which is said to be the last. I don't know how they'll handle the other twist that's supposed to be coming, but I assume it won't be well. Plus, the whole thing with Ryan, Homelander's son, is super inaccurate, and that, I think, will play a key role in making the ending of the show completely different from the ending of the comic. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please check out our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and the rest of our channel for more cool content. You won't be disappointed. Have a good day.